Okay, let's draft the trouser part of this jumpsuit we are making. Alright, so I've extended this paper to get the full length of the trouser I am sewing. So I'm going to be coming down here by 3 inches. I'm going to do 3 inches down here and from this side, and we'll continue. Alright, next I'm going to be dividing the hip measurements by 4, and I'm going to be using this to create a box around here. And the hip is 41 inches. 41 divided by 4 will be 10.25. So I'm going to mark out 10.25. Next, I'm going to be taking the waist measurement. The waist is 34 inches. 34 divided by 4 will be 34 divided by 4 will be 8.5 plus 1 inch for that will be 9.5. So I'm going to be marking from this place. I'll take it down to 9.5 here. And then from the waist, I am going to measure down the waist to hip measurement, which is 8 inches. So here. So this is the crotch line, while this is the waist to the hip line. Okay, so from here I am going to be ruling this waistline to the hip line. Okay, then I'm going to take out the darts. The darts for this dress, we're going to be using the bust span. The bust span is 8 inches, divided by 2 will be 4. So I'm marking out 4 inches. And then I'll come down by 4 inches or 4.5. And for this dart, I am going to be taking out 1 inch for the dart, obviously, which is ½ inch on both sides. And then for the side line, I am going to be going up by ½ inch. So from this end, I'm going up by ½ inch, and then I'll connect this ½ inch and then connect it to the first dart line. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is divide the hip measurement 10 by 20. For the front piece, we divide the hip by 20, and for the back, we divide the hip by 10. So this is for the crotch. So at the crotch line, we divide the hip by 20. 41 divided by 20 will be 2.05. So I'm going to just approximate it to 2.1. So I'm marking 2.1 here. And then I will extend the crotch line to meet the 2.1. Alright. Then around the hip line, I am going to be coming out by 0.25, which is half of ½ inch. So ½ inch, the half of it, that's 0.25. I'm going to come here and mark it. And then I'll use my curved ruler, my hip curve, to mark it out. So from here, I'll connect these two lines first. And then I will rule this to the top. I'll rule it to meet this line. Okay, so now from here I am going to divide this place, this hip line, into 2. I'm dividing it into 2 so that I can find the middle. And then, so here is the middle, and then from this middle I am going to be marking out. So what I have here is 6.2. So I'm going to be marking 6.2 all the way to the end as the middle of the trouser. Okay, now from here To get the knee line, you must have already measured yourself or measured your client. But if not, this is another way you can get your knee line. From this crotch line to the end of the trouser, the length of the full length of the trouser, you're just going to get the half of it. So I am folding this in half. What I have here is 28.8 or so. 28.8 divided by 2 will be 14.4, and that will be our knee line. So I'm just going to mark this line. Okay, so this is officially the knee line. Now, this is where you now impute the other measurements of the dress. If you are making a palazzo that is going to be very full, this is where you start to put those measurements. Depending on how full you want the palazzo to be. So the palazzo I'm making is going to be very full. So it's basically from the hip line all the way down. That's the full length. So I am not going to be curving too much. I just need to get this part to be comfortable. So for that, so from here, what I have here is 6.2. So I'm going to be coming here to mark another 6.2. So we're using the whole 6.2 because we're trying to get a full palazzo here. Now to connect this to here, I like to curve this here and use this line to get here instead of using a straight line. I like to reverse my ruler like this and get it instead of using a straight line to get it. Okay, you definitely see the whole effect when you are making a tighter knee, but placing it like this now looks like here is going to be tinier than this place. So I'm just going to rule a straight line. So this is our palazzo, a straight palazzo, straight all the way. To get the back piece of this, we are going to redrafting this. We are going to redrafting everything we have done in this front piece. We are going to repeat it to get the back piece. Okay. Now, in a case where we want to reduce this place a little bit, maybe you don't want it to be this full, you can also alter it. So let's say I want to take out 1 inch on both sides from this. Okay, so I'm going to come here, mark 1 inch here, mark 1 inch inside here, do the same thing at the bottom. So you connect it. And then at this point, you can now use your ruler in reverse to connect it to the crotch line, as you can see. And then you use a straight line to connect the knee to the crotch line. So we're going to be using this one in between. We're not using the full bigger one. This first one looked too full, so I'm going to be using the smaller one instead. Okay, so now I am going to cut out this pattern. Now this is it. This is the front pattern. So I'm taking it out. So I'm going to go ahead and remark everything I have marked out in the front piece at the back piece. I will repeat the front pattern drafting here before I will now start altering it. So I need to repeat the same thing I've done on the back, on the front pattern, on the back pattern, before we now alter it to get the back pattern. Okay, so I'm starting with the hip, dividing by the hip by 4. I'm going to be creating the box here, take out the waist measurement and the darts, and then roll the straight line all the way to the length. Then we'll start alteration. I've repeated the same thing I've done on the front to the back. So now it's time to start altering this front pattern to get the back pattern. Alright, so now to alter this waist pattern, from this hip crotch line, I am going to go in by 1 inch. Now this 1 inch I'm going in is for those with hip 38 and above. For those who have hips for 38 and above, you go in by 1 inch. For those who have a smaller hip from 38 below, you go in by 0.75 inches. Okay, and then from at the waistline, you will go in by 2 inches. So I'm marking out 2 inches. Now if your client is someone that has big bum bum, that has big hips, okay, at this back here, you will go up here by 1.5 inches. Their bum, like their butt is quite big, you can use as much as 2 inches at the back, at this back part. But for someone whose their hip is, their bum is not so obvious or so big, you can use between 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go up by say 1.3 inches. So I'm going to come here and dot it. Now I'll use my straight ruler and connect these 2 inches to the 1 inch that I have marked here. As you can see, I'm using a black pen to alter it so that we will know where the back piece starts and where it stops. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is from this place, I'm going to be measuring the hip measurement again. Now the hip measurement for this person is 41, and 41 divided by 4 is 10.25. So I'm going to repeat the 10.25 here again. So here 10.25, and I'll mark it. Then I will rule my crotch line to meet the 10.25 over there. Now you are seeing the purpose why we left this back piece, this 3 inches here. This is for the alteration for the front. Now what I'm going to do is, for this second line, I'm just going to measure what is left, the excess that is left at the back, at the side here. So from here to here I have 1.8. I'm just going to move up to the hip line and I will mark the 1.8. And then I will connect this one. I will rule this to meet that 1.8 over there, and then I will connect those 2 lines together. Hope you are following. Alright, so because this is how we're going to be getting our measurements. Now from here we'll take out the waist measurement, and the waist measurement for this person is 34 divided by 4, which is 8.5, plus 1 inch that, which is 9.5. So here I'm going to measure 9.5. From here I'll mark my 9.5 to this place. This is my 9.5. And then you can also rule this waistline all the way to the end, because from this waistline we'll also come up by half an inch as well, like we did here for the front pattern. So now I am going to be connecting this to the new line, and then from here I'm going to mark it, ruling this line. I'm going to be ruling this line to meet each other. So I started from the original hip line, as you can see. So this from here to here is our 9.5. Alright, so from here I'm going to marking out the dart line, and the dart Remember, we're using 1 inch and we're using the bust span, which is 8 inches. So 8 divided by 4, 8 divided by 2 will be 4 inches. So I have here, and I'm going to go in for the back piece. I'm going to come into up to 5 inches down. So I'm going to be measuring this. So as you can see, I'm using my ruler, the lines on my ruler, to guide this so that I'll rule a straight line. Okay, even when you're transferring the darts to the fabric, also do the same technique, because if you tint it the other way, it will give you a different shape. Okay, so here, now I can take out the darts, 1 inch, half an inch here, and half an inch on this side, and I will rule it. And then for that half an inch we went up here, I'm just going to connect that half an inch to meet this first dart line. Okay, now it's making more sense. And then for the crotch line, we're going to be dividing the hip by 10. Like I said, for the front crotch line we divided the hip by 20, and for the back we divide the hip by 10 inches. So the 41 divided by 10 will give us 4.1. So from this line, this is our new line, I'm going to come out by 4.1. So this is the 4.1 here, and I'm going to be extending this line, this crotch line, to meet the 4.1. And then from this new line, I'm going to come out by 0.25, which is what we did here for the front piece when we're doing the front. So from here I'll come out by 0.25. 0.25 being the half of half inch. And then I'm going to be using my ruler to connect these two lines. Connect this line to the 0.25. Okay, now from here, and as for this knee line, this is the knee. As for this knee line, for the back piece, I'm going to be coming out half an inch from the original marking we did for the front. So for here, I'm going to come out by half an inch. And for the back, this other side, I'll come out by half an inch as well. So I'm going to be connecting this half an inch to the new back lines. Okay, so I'll do the same thing and extend this half an inch all the way to the bottom of the trouser. Okay, so I'm marking out half an inch here, half an inch here, and I'm going to connect the lines. Alright, so this is our new, this is the back pattern. I'm going to go ahead and cut out this back pattern and place them side by side. Indicate here is the full length, and this is extra 3 inches. Okay, you can do this if you are doing a palazzo that you want to be sweeping the floor. This is what you do. This is the full length of the trouser, then you add extra 3 inches for if you want the trouser to get to the floor. Okay, now this is our pattern. Now at this point, guys, if this was supposed to be a trouser, I'm making this for jumpsuits. For the 2 jumpsuits I'll be sewing with this, but I'll be using the same pattern for the 2 jumpsuits I'm making. Now if this was supposed to be for a trouser, this is the point where you start to alter the trouser to achieve your waist and to add the pockets and to add You will also add pocket to this one as well. You are going to add the pocket, and then you take out that and take out the band, because when you are taking out the band for the trouser, it does not have a dart. So you will close this dart and take out the band. So basically, in our next class, when we are going to be doing trouser more extensively, or you can check out my YouTube page, because I have a free class on my YouTube page where I have created trouser patterns severally, and they are all available to you for free. So you can go over there and enjoy. Okay, so this is for the palazzo, so we're using it exactly the way it is. Now for me to get the pocket for this, I'm just going to place this paper. So I'm going to place this right here, because I want to trace out the piece I'm going to be using. I want to trace out the piece I'm going to be using for the pocket. So you decide where you want your pocket to stop. If you want the pocket to stay by the crotch sitting, you can stop here. Okay, so I'm just tracing the exact pattern on this. Now remember that this is going to have a dart, so you can take out the dart when you are trying to mark out where the pocket is going to be. This is because the pocket does not have a dart, obviously. So if you mark it out, then you can know where you will stop for the pocket. Okay, so this is it. And then from here, you can decide if you want it to stop at the hip crotch line sitting, or come down a little bit more, depending on how deep you want this pocket to be. If you don't want the pocket to be deep, you can also stop there. So this is already very long, as you can see. This is already very long. So all the way from the waist, I have 13.5 inches. So you can decide what you want with it. And then the width of this trouser is completely up to you. The width, what I have here is 5 inches. If you want to make the width more than 5 inches, say 5.5 or more, that's up to you. So I'm going to come here and measure the same 5 inches, and then I will connect it. But you can curve your own however you want to do it. So see, I want to curve these ones. I'm going to first rule out like this, and then I will be curving here to meet this one here. Now if you ask me, I will say this pocket is quite deep. This is the side pocket SP. This is the top of the pocket, top TP. Okay, so this is to indicate which direction the pocket is going. Now also note that when you are cutting out the pieces for this pocket, if you are adding 1 inch sewing allowance to your trouser, you add 1 inch sewing allowance to the pocket. If you are adding 1.5 inch sewing allowance to your trouser, you add 1.5 inch sewing allowance to your pocket. Because whatever you add, because you are going to be sewing the same thing on top of the pocket as you are sewing on the trouser. Okay, now if you are adding sewing joining allowance at the top, 1/2 inch for the trouser, remember to also add it to the pocket. Okay, instead, if you know you will forget and you know how many inches of allowance you're going to add, cut out the pattern for the trouser first, place it on top of another pattern paper, and add all this allowance and cut it out so you don't forget. Okay, this is, if it sounds very trivial, but a lot of people forget. I too, I forget sometimes. So now if this was not supposed to be for just a trouser, it won't be this long. You probably stay from this length, but because it's a jumpsuit and we have the whole waistline all the way, like a high waist, that's why it is this long. So you can also reduce it. It does not, because it's a big trouser, does not mean it should be this long. Okay, I feel this is absolutely too long, so I can try to come here and reduce it. So please, I don't think it should be this long. Now this is better. This is absolutely better. So this is the pocket. Let's start transferring to fabric.